Hi, welcome everybody to CEU Executive MBA's Prague and Vienna Open Day tonight. I'm Thomas Lavelle. I'm the Senior Program Manager of the CEU Executive MBA, and I will host you through this evening. We will start with a program presentation of the CEU Executive MBA, followed by a meeting with the current student. You will have then the opportunity to enjoy a keynote presentation by Professor Lavelle, who is our faculty member. And in the end, we will have a Q&A session for any questions that you might have. If you have any questions, feel free to pop them into the chat box or DM me via Zoom. I will collect all these questions for the Q&A session in the end. And I'm trying my best to answer all the questions that you might have. I would like to welcome everybody here in Prague at Impact Hub and to in Vienna. And to a warm welcome to all of our guests joining us on Zoom tonight from wherever you are in the world. So let's start with the program presentation. The problem you're facing right now, or the question that you're asking yourself at the moment could be, is an MBA still worth it? Because you don't have to go very far these days to encounter that we are witnessing fundamental transformations in a world in a century. In 2008, we have witnessed a huge financial crisis. In 2015, we have seen a refugee crisis. And right now, we are in the biggest pandemic in over a century. And these changes are part of a much broader set of transformation that is taking place. And some of these changes are positive, of course, but some of them can be pretty dangerous. And the key question is, how do we as business professionals, how do you as business professionals prepare for this challenging and unpredictable environment? And the obvious question is an MBA the way to do it? Because we've seen an explosion of online education and over the last year, and I'll show you why we believe our MBA is worth it. So if you're interested in further education, you usually start searching for an MBA in the city you live in. What you tend to find is mostly a pretty standard MBA curriculum. They don't offer a certain expertise, they don't offer a certain perspective, they don't offer a certain mission. The faculty who are delivering the program are mostly local, not international. And the number of international students is relatively low in these local programs. Some of these programs, especially in Western Europe, can be quite expensive. For example, our competitor in Vienna charges 55,000 euro for its program. If you look to Switzerland, if you go to Germany or the UK, it's even more expensive than that. But a local program allows you not to leave your job. So if you contrast that with the top business schools in the world, they often have a very differentiated curriculum. They offer a certain expertise, they offer a certain perspective or a specific mission. Because of their full-time format that most of these programs have, their student body is international actually. But you are leaving the labor market for at least 1 year or even 2 years, which is another financial burden. In addition to your tuition, it's an additional financial burden because of the cost of living, of moving there, etc. And as I just said, these programs are rather expensive in the US, in the UK, starting at more than 100,000 euro, 120,000 euro, the sky's the limit. And another thing that you might not have considered is that you might have to move your family to the new MBA location. So what we do at CEU, your solution, is that we offer the best of two worlds. There is no work interruption. You're not moving anywhere because thanks to the practical and flexible modular format. I will talk about it later. I've talked about the missions, I've talked about perspectives, I've talked about certain curricula, and the MBA at CEU is mission-driven. I will talk about the executive MBA for the open world philosophy later in this presentation. We have an international student body because of the modularity of the program. Actually, CEU is the second most international university in the world, and participants can fly in, can fly out, which is a major advantage of the program. So speaking of our program, I would like to introduce you to some of our faculty members. It's just a selection of our faculty members. Let's start with Mark Kaufman here for economics. He's an expert in applied theory with a PhD from Harvard. Or if you're new to finance, Joy John is a uniquely gifted educator. Generation after generation of our students tell us how she's just uniquely gifted in explaining complex financial concept to beginners. Or the course on big data and artificial intelligence with Miklos Koren, one of the leading scholars in the field in Europe with a Harvard PhD. Sophia Barani, who was our keynote speaker just a couple of days ago at our Stockholm-Copenhagen Open Day. She's an expert on the future of work with the PhD from LSE, and she is an expert on automation, robotics, and artificial intelligence herself. Another prominent member of our faculty is faculty director Marcie Kizlovsky, with a JSD degree from Yale, with an MBA from INSEAD, and an MPA from Princeton. And he's a distinguished expert on regulation and non-market strategy. Or Professor Aisu Senius with a PhD from Florida. She's our one of our marketing professors with an expertise in emotional marketing. If you're already experienced in finance, you'll be placed in the advanced track course with Professor Adam Savadovsky, a leading expert on complex financial investments with a PhD from Princeton. For leadership, Austin, our world-class psychologist with executive education experience for continents, he will lead the way. Or last but not least, for strategy, you'll have Yusuf Akbar, who has taught in more than 40 countries and advises leading Fortune 500 companies around the world. So here's a selection of our visiting faculty. Professor Christian Zelos, who is an innovation expert from Stanford University, or Miklos Savary, who is an expert on digital marketing from Columbia University, Omar Hernandez from Berkeley Business School, or Professor Hui Chen from the University of Zurich, or Dr. Milena Nikolova from the Behavior Smart office. She's their Chief Behavior Officer. That's just a selection of our visiting faculty. So here's what the program looks like. It's a 10-module program, as you can see. The dates you can see on the screen right now are not going to change. So you can basically plan your studying around professional and family activities based on these dates. As you can see, in 2022, we have 3 modules in the first year, 4 modules in the second year, and 3 modules in the third year, which gives you full flexibility and balance in your life. You might have noticed the dates because we are piggybacking around popular European holidays like May 1st, August 15th, or November 1st, when it's easier for you to take time off and join one of our modules over a long weekend. In the summers, which is the column in the center, our bespoke and cutting-edge leadership program takes place in Budapest, and you'll have the opportunity to benefit from electives from faculty in the world that we invite to actually teach your classes. So one day, there will come the day when you eventually finish with us and join the CEU alumni network from around the world. As I already said, CEU is the second most international university, and this is not just reflected in the student body, but also, of course, reflected in the alumni body. It's a very active elite alumni network on every continent. We have city-level chapters, we have country-level chapters. Basically, wherever you are in the world, wherever you go in the world, you'll find CEU alumni to interact with. And the good thing is, those alumni are very easy to approach to. We have groups on Facebook and LinkedIn, and it's easy for you to reach out to them through social media, if you're looking for people with a certain expertise, if you're looking for people in a specific company or NGO, or if you're just looking for people in a specific city where you're going to reach out to those people, it's easy and mingle with them and network with them. Because it's a network that you can trust, that you can count on, and it's one of the key assets that we have. So one question that you might have is, how are we able to offer such a high quality program at a tuition of only 29,000 euro? And the answer lies in our founder and benefactor, George Soros, who created CEU with the mission to promote open society. Just recently, George Soros made a further contribution to CEU's mission by offering another $1 billion, billion with a B, in endowment to create the Open Society University Network, which means we are the best financially endowed university in Europe. So what does the executive MBA for the open world mean? What makes CEU so unique? First of all, when we talk about open world, we mean skepticism towards dogmas, towards hierarchies and privileges, both in context of how we teach, but also in composition of the cohort. Diversity is key to create a successful program. And for us, it's not just an empty marketing catchphrase. Secondly, we believe in debate and radical rational thinking. Every idea can be challenged. We believe in facts and arguments rather than narratives and fake news, because it's narratives and fake news that create the polarization in our societies these days. And we believe the best way to challenge this fake news-based and narrative-based discourse is to make arguments based on facts and realities, which is the hallmark of Karl Popper's definition of open societies. We are fundamentally opposed to all kinds of discrimination, and we actively promote diversity within our program. And the way we finance the scholarship means we create opportunities for people who traditionally have not been able to actually join such high-class programs like ours. And one thing that distinguishes us from other programs is, I think, we see managers not just as people who deal with businesses and resources, but we also believe that managers go beyond that. They are positive change agents. Whatever their professional background is, they are positive change agents in their specific field and position. So what does the CEU Executive MBA classroom look like? Currently, in the current cohort, we have 65 managers with an average of 14 years of work experience, including a minimum of 3 years of leadership or managerial experience. As you can see from the background image, we use state-of-the-art classroom technology and setups in order to facilitate discussion and interaction in class. We make use, in our lectures, we make use of case-based learning rather than traditional lectures that you would find in local MBA programs. And our mission is to take you, experts in your specific field, from this level of functional expertise to the strategic, to the leadership level. So in times like this, we offer, of course, top quality online participation, and every participant can choose to join online if traveling is too complicated, or if it's too dangerous, if no visa are being issued, or flights or lockdowns are in place. So you have full flexibility if you want to join on-site or online. We have invested heavily in studio-grade microphones capturing lectures and all participants, because we think that learning is not just a one-way street from the teacher, from the lecturer to the participant, but it's also a communication flow from the participant to the lecturer, but also among fellows, among participants. We have invested in large screens and high-quality cameras in order to capture all the debate entries during a lecture. We have created physical virtual breakout rooms for support teams. and personalized virtual backgrounds that you can see right now. On the screen right now, you can not only see the names of your fellows, but also the color codes of the support teams those people are in. And speaking of the support teams are an essential part of the group work that you will be doing in the CEU Executive MBA. And we expose you proactively to as much diversity as possible. In these support teams, you will not be placed in a team with people coming from the same country, coming from the same industry, coming from the same linguistic background, because we want you to expose you to different styles, to different approaches of decision-making, solution finding, teamwork, etc. And this you cannot find if you're in a group of like-minded people, people from the same industry, from the same city, with the same language. Those people would only tell the same stories to each other, but there's nothing that you could learn. And this is where diversity kicks in, being exposed to different kinds of perspectives where you actually start learning and expand to your horizon. Of course, we offer high quality individual support on every level that you're with us, from the level of just inquiring about the program, to applying for the program, to enrolling with us, to being in the program as a participant, or starting your alumni experience. You will benefit from high quality individual support on every level. We are always here for you. So tuition is 29,000 euro for the whole program, and it includes all the credits. We have financial support, scholarships and fellowships in place. We have one merit-based country-specific for people in Czech Republic, for example, in order to defray, to reduce your cost of tuition. But this tuition, this basic tuition, is for the whole program and includes all the credits. In order to defray your other costs of traveling and accommodation, we have negotiated special rates with partner hotels in Budapest and Vienna, and we have negotiated discounts for flights with Lufthansa Group and Austrian Airlines. So we want you to join the open world and start your application through our website. The whole application process is being done online. The deadline is March 27th. However, I strongly encourage you to apply as soon as possible, because we have a first come, first served policy. And the sooner you apply, the sooner you're able to reserve your study seat and avoid competition. The application starts on our website. If you need further advice on the application process, on your documents, or on the scholarships that I already mentioned, please feel free to book a one-on-one consultation. The link is in the chat. Feel free to book a one-on-one consultation with me, especially advice on your individual application and scholarships is easier dealt with in private sessions than at open days, of course. So I think it's one thing to hear about the program from a person from the program office who, of course, is committed to this program, but I think it's another thing to hear about the program from a person who is actually in the program right now. So I would like to introduce David Ružička to you. I hope I pronounced the name correctly. He's a current participant, and he's the founding editor of Data Lyrics and co-founder of the Czech Club of Forum Alpbach. David, thank you very much. Ahoy, thank you for joining us tonight.
Ahoy, Tomasz. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the introduction.
If you could tell our audience here in Prague and online, of course, and in Vienna, just about your very personal motivation, why you joined CEU Executive MBA back then.
Right. So I think, the CEU is a very unique institution. Thomas has alluded to some of those characteristics already. I have done some research with the CEU media department previously, and that's what, I realized that there are many competent researchers who are much more in touch with the public life than in many other universities, and that was one motivation. And then specifically the CEU EMBA sort of attracted me, because I had personally a sort of very, I would say, wide-ranging profile, wide-ranging CV, and I needed to somehow anchor it. And we're getting some echo here. I needed to anchor it. I needed to somehow anchor it, and I think this was a very, very good way to do so. I think Thomas gave quite a good overview of the program, and really some of the courses were excellent, and helped me to also in the most recent role, which is actually product management.
You talked about your motivation, and I think you're a very good example of the diversity in our class, because we're attracting people who are coming from the traditional corporate world, like the major blue chip companies in their countries, but we also attract people coming from a non-traditional, let's put it that way, non-MBA traditional background, like NGOs, civil rights movements, climate activism, the public sector, and entrepreneurship. And I mean, we are here at Impact Hub, which is an advocate for entrepreneurship, and we have entrepreneurs in the current program. And I think this is a major advantage of the program, because it's not just people from companies from the corporate world, but also very interesting people coming from NGOs and public. If you could talk about the diversity in your class, David, just give us a few examples.
Yeah, that's a very good question, obviously. It goes, just like you said, it goes all the way from, like, sort of, I would say that I would make the contrast, all the way from the finance industry to all the way to very sort of niche type of nonprofits. And in between, you have people who, for instance, work in the financial industry, but at the same time, in their free time, they are working as activists. On this spectrum, we also have people who have founded their own startups, which are very successful. And just as you said in the introduction, you and your colleagues, and Akos here, who is also with us, make I think very sort of spend a lot of time on splitting those people in those support teams. So I have been so far in like 3 or 4 support teams, and in all of those there really was you could sort of feel this diversity of the whole class in each of those support teams.
Right. I mean, that's the perfect addition to what I've said. Just to give you an example of you are in the first cohort that we recruited during the pandemic, and we are currently we're having the second cohort that we have recruited successfully during the pandemic. And just to give you an example, we have people flying in from 5 continents to executive MBA. And I think in times of a pandemic, it shows how much trust people have in our academic quality and in our logistics, that we will be able, and we are able, to deliver such a program at these times. And just to give you an example, we have people flying in from as far away as Vancouver, Canada, South Africa. We have 2 Australians in the program. We have people from India, 1 person from Malaysia and China, and of course, Europe, Western Europe, Central Europe, and Eastern Europe, and the CEU region. And all those people they do not differ only when it comes to nationalities, but also with the professional backgrounds. We have people coming from culture and arts, from NGO, from the corporate world, as I already said. David, thank you so much. In view of the time, I would like to thank you and move on to our next part of this evening, to the keynote presentation by Professor Mike Lavelle. David, thank you so much. If any of you attendees would like to reach out to David for more authentic feedback on the cohort, feel free to Google him and find him on LinkedIn, and to connect with him there. I'm pretty sure he would be able to answer your questions if you want to have any questions from him. Otherwise, I'm here to answer your questions. And now we have Mike Lavelle in the pipeline to deliver a keynote presentation on the carbon storm of 2021. I'm thrilled to hear about the lecture.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much, Thomas. And I want to thank David, who also is a student or was a student in the summer module in my class as well. So he performed excellent. So I just want to thank him for that. So uh,
Let me maybe briefly add. Michael actually connected me with one of his former students, and I'm taking her advice to actually like relaunch a new merchandise line, which will be more eco-friendly than the previous one. So that's an example of how sort of this can work in practice. Yeah.
oh,
Perfect example.
Pleasure. Looking forward to the lecture.
great. So you were able to connect with her. Okay, we'll talk later. That's a great follow-up. And actually it's a great introduction to what I'm doing. And I want to thank Thomas and I want to say hello, Mache, as well, as I see his face. Let me I'll share my screen so we don't see Mache. So sorry about that, Professor Kowalski. So here we go. And just I want to emphasize how much we are cutting edge, because I am using Canva for this presentation. And if there is a technical difficulty, then I have a PDF that's backed up on this. So, but let's give this a try, because we are, unfortunately in this situation where we have to do a lot of online learning, and I'm trying new ways to bring the students I would say a new experience for learning about energy. This is my main area, is energy innovation, energy governance, and the area of energy justice as well. So let me move that around there. I just wanted to provide an opening slide here of things that I'm doing now. And this is kind of a background and introduces what I'll be talking about tonight. So one of the things I do is a weekly podcast on energy, and I would say just the energy transition towards 2050. So this has actually turned out to be the seed of a new book that I'm working on. And what I'll be presenting tonight is a very rough draft of some preliminary ideas. So it takes years. Here I have up in the right-hand corner my other book. It came out last year, called Energy Cultures. And I really enjoyed the long form writing about 80,000 words rather than writing only 8,000 words. So this is my ambition for the future, is writing another book. And part of that is about talking with people, experts, every week. And in fact, if you go to the My Energy 2050 webpage, there we have a former student who's a climatologist. I interview him, and actually it turns out many of my former students have gone out and gotten successful careers going, and I actually go back now and I interview them. So I would say coming to CEU, and this is not just plugging the EMBA, but CEU in general and the EMBA, is really the education we give and the jobs that the students go out and do. It just makes me very proud, actually. So, and I'm just showing another chart here. This is some work we have going. Maybe some of you are interested in the energy sector, and you know about the Fit for 55, the EU's goals for 2030. We're doing some research on this, and how this could affect the new member states in the EU compared to the old states. So, and actually the two interviews I did this week, one with the Association for Materials, and also with someone involved in energy regulation. This is really on the radar, is how do we pay for and how do we increase the price of energy for consumers in the EU? And it's a very controversial topic, and it just happens this is what we're doing our research on. So it's a great idea. And the high price of energy is actually kind of the focus of tonight's presentation. What I call is the carbon storm of 2021. This is really, and I didn't just put this together. It actually stems from a podcast episode I did a few months ago, and I've updated the charts and the figures in here, and of course the ideas, because it's amazing, as you'll see, the impact even now in early December and I would say late November, the changes that have occurred in just a few weeks. And many of you probably know the price of gas, the price of diesel, price of natural gas, the price of petrol, we'll frame it in different ways, is really high. And this is really causing a lot of problems. And of course, I think probably many of you have heard of the chip shortage, and this is why vehicles are not being produced by the automotive makers. And you'll find out about some other shortages. And this is what I call a carbon storm. So we have the chip shortage, yes, but there's other factors come into play. Geopolitics, the ramping up of renewable energies and the phasing out of fossil fuels are creating the storm, which are really impacting not just the economy. And what is the economy? It's manufacturing, it's jobs, it's how people pay for the heating. And so it's really having this big impact on society. And how I'm going to lay that out to you tonight is the elements of the carbon storm. And as I said, this is definitely in development. And what I'm using here is, let's see if it works or not. But I think so. So we have a flame. This is actually a flame on the left-hand side. It's a gas flame. And then we have wind. Wind is blowing through. Okay, so that's going to be, this is actually my outline. So I tried to cut down on the number of words and using these diagrams. And then we have water. So water is going to be about purity and what's behind clean water. So first, this actually comes from a message, an email I got from my brother, who he has an MBA, so unfortunately he can't join our program. But he sent me that he's in supply chain management, and maybe I won't say where or what's he doing, but he did send me this question, and he was like, "What is up?" And the question here is: so our supply chain in China is essentially at a reduced capacity due to shortage of electricity. This is back in, I think it was October. So he says, we are hearing it's primarily coal, but also natural gas. And I'll explain this in a minute, why China was actually having to cut back on electricity production. And this was actually affecting their supply chain. They were not getting the goods from China. He lives in America, but even it's a global company he works for, and they weren't getting the components that were necessary to assemble their product. And then he writes, meanwhile, natural gas prices in Europe are skyrocketing. Is this a readily solvable problem, or are we headed someplace dire? So he really, and actually in subsequent conversations, he really thought, maybe things are going really bad. So if he wanted to know, if from my perspective, if things are really headed back. And I put in here in the chat, I'm just do a Menti poll here. And let me see here, I've got it all ready to go. And I just wanted to ask you all to go to the Menti and answer this question. You got to come up with like 3 words or something. Is in the past 6 months, what are you or your organization having to pay more for? So I just want to see from your perspective, are you having to pay more money for certain things? Have you noticed maybe the cost of energy has gone up, or are there other things that have gotten to be more expensive? And let's see here. Okay. Energy, electricity, raw materials, restaurants. I like restaurants, labor wages, third party, electricity. So petrol, travels, environment, labor wages. So yeah, right. We felt this in the energy sector, and maybe this was like a prompt. Like if you go to see a magician, they kind of prompt you subliminally on the answer. And maybe I did that, but I think it's actually for a good reason. Okay, so we have our elements, the wind, the water. Let me progress from that. And then we have the fire here, okay? This is coal, this is burning coal. And let me go back to the dilemma about my brother, okay? Why he saw the high prices, things were not being produced. And one of the reasons for that was actually Australia, or a little bit later after the breakout of the pandemic, also called for investigation into COVID-19 origins in China. And China didn't like that. So what do? We often hear about Russia and gas politics in the EU, but in this case, China responded against Australia by banning coal imports. And this actually, and there's another side of the story, but I'm only going to show this one element right now. So China banned the coal imports from Australia. So the impact that this has actually had was that this is high quality coal that comes from Australia. And actually China had to use more lignite, and this is actually really bad for the power plants, especially if they're not set up for that. So it can be burning much more. and it can create a lot of problems. It's not very clean. It's very, okay, coal is dirty, but lignite is very, very dirty. And so these power plants were going offline. It was also more expensive. And you can see they start importing coal from other regions. This is largely Russia as well. Also Indonesia, that went up as well. But it actually had this knock-on effect, along with something else that I'll get to in a minute. So the power prices were capped in China. They couldn't increase. And so some power producers decided to go offline, actually. And so this was impacting things. And we can see also, so you're from the survey, higher prices on gas and all. Here we can start to see, I'm not making this up, and I've double checked with one of my co-authors on my paper, who is an energy economist. And this is true, 535% increase in the gas import price into the EU in 1 year. This is how much more gas is costing. And then this is a big problem actually as well, because of course it's high. So now it's heating season. So people are going to have to pay more, and companies themselves are having to pay more. We add that on top of the high oil price, which here, I just show this 3-year time horizon, the price of oil. Of course, it's up, and now it's going back down a little bit. But the fundamentals of the oil market, I won't get into them here, but they have definitely changed. Before, the US could actually influence much more the price of oil because of hydraulic fracturing. And that's not so much the case nowadays either. So we have a lot of changes. And one of the results we can start to see, because of the these things translate into high electricity prices, and of course the high gas prices, is that now in the EU, factories are cutting down, or they're shifting times of day when they actually produce this. So for example, here we can see in the Netherlands, a Dutch zinc factory is cutting production, and they're actually shifting to producing off peak. We have peak periods when a lot of electricity is being used, and they're going to be not producing at those times during the day. So this is actually having a big impact. Even fertilizer producers have been shutting down because the price of gas, which is the main feedstock for producing fertilizer, is way too expensive, and that they can't recoup it. They can't sell fertilizer at such a high price. So they've been shutting down on purpose. Wind, for example, the wind was not blowing in Europe as expected. And this is one reason that the gas storage was depleted during the summer and the fall, was because the wind that was expected that electricity had to be produced in another form. And so that was gas generation. And then we have the geopolitics here as well. And I want to emphasize here, we have China, and we have the coal cutback, and we also have Russia and gas. And we have an issue now where we have the Nord Stream pipeline that Russia built, the second one. And that's just basically sitting there right now. It's waiting for the regulatory approval of the German government and the EU. And Russia is playing these politics of not sending more gas to Europe. And therefore, the price of gas is much more. The same thing, of course, as I reflected at the beginning as well, was the high price of, or the change in coal in China. But we also have who should pay more for high energy. Actually, let me back up. So the other point with China, though, too, was that their CO2 emissions, they were trying to cap. And this is because they wanted to lower the amount of coal that they were using to produce power. And so they actually banned a certain amount of power from being produced from coal. And this also led to the shortages of electricity, and actually factories not being producing key ingredients like magnesium that are actually necessary in Europe to make aluminum that goes into cars, it goes into even windmill blades. All the key components of metallurgy stem actually from, many of the key components come from China, and no other continent can actually compete with that. So my next question for you, and I'll put this in the chat, is who should pay for high energy prices? So this gets us down to the conclusion. It's getting us there. You can turn off your microphone and just say who should pay for high energy prices.
Hi, Milena.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, great. Yes, definitely hear you. Hi.
So I come from environmental background, and I really enjoy your presentation. Sorry. Well, actually, I was seeing Joe Biden right now, but he's not the one that is supposed to pay for the new prices, right?
Why not? Uncle Joe.
I think they have enough problems now.
So who should pay? Or what was your question? Sorry.
Well, my first, I didn't have question actually, but my first thought was the final customer.
Oh, the final customer. Oh, okay, okay. And why?
I don't mean this is fair.
Uh-huh. Exactly. Exactly.
But I think this is just like what happens at the end.
Yeah. And what if the price is too expensive for someone to afford it?
Well, we have all noticed that things are getting expensive, like everyday supplies. I have no idea who needs to pay all this.
No, but it's good. Or maybe I ask I narrow the question down a bit more. Are there certain portions of society that if they have trouble paying, is it okay to give some assistance to certain portions of society?
It sure should happen.
And what if there's high energy prices? What do you think the action is or reaction by people?
Maybe the government should support a little bit.
So for like maybe I'm going to lead you on a little bit. So maybe like on heating, for example, if a family of 6 has trouble paying their heating bill, like maybe we could help them out.
Sure.
But what if like a very, well, let's say a well-off family with a nice swimming pool, should they pay the same price per kilowatt hour as the family with 4 kids?
No.
No.
In times of crisis, no. And right now I'm thinking about like the production. What do they need to pay right now to keep on producing goods?
Right. And because this is your thinking is absolutely right.
Because I'm working for a small small company for furniture, and so in the summer we needed to increase our prices with more than 30%.
Wow. Because of the energy cost.
Because of everything. Not just energy cost, it came later, but everything we're paying more for almost everything. And well, the funny point is that we have more customers now than that we used to have, but this has another explanation. Like the most of the people stayed home, so they need to make the homes homier, like cozier, and they always want to. I think the most of the people are investing in their homes right now, even vacation homes, etc. So it's impacting our work in a positive and negative ways. Like our products got expensive, but we're not losing customers.
Oh, well, and so it actually shows because the demand is there for your products. I guess, right? That they will pay the extra money, even though your energy costs are higher.
Yes, they're not hesitating at all. Like we've been working with pretty much the same customers over the years, and everyone understood why we had to increase the prices. So we did not lose any customers. We have even more work now than before.
And then they're willing to pay for it then. And on the energy side, I'll keep it here. Did your company try to find other ways or other people to, or other companies to provide their energy, or did they just kind of accept the increase?
Do you mean the customers?
It's okay not to know this.
Yeah.
Your company itself, because there's electricity traders or gas traders, and they often go to companies and they give them different contracts. And
we still did not discuss this point.
Okay, so but this is it's an option, but the problem now with the price of gas. So maybe I'll bring it back. So thank you very much for your questions there, and because this is really serious. We can see that the company that she works for, the price of their product had to increase because one of the inputs is energy. I think she also mentioned labor. Increased, but on the side of the price of energy, it does have this direct impact. We often know, I think, with oil for transportation, so for transporting the goods, that has to increase. The production using electricity for the machinery that produces things, that has to be higher. And now, actually, for example, here in Hungary, a company, just a large energy trader, very old one, just went bankrupt or is in the process of going bankrupt. And many of the other traders, this is across Europe, are having to renegotiate with their customers because the price of gas, as I showed, and the price of electricity is so much higher now that the old contracts that they agreed on, essentially under this old system, is no longer valid. Like either the energy traders go bankrupt, and then the company has to pay the spot price, the current price, which is much higher. So this high energy price puts everyone in a bad position. So the consumers, they have to pay more, and of course we have inflation now, and also the energy traders. So we could say, yeah, some people are making money, but overall it's a pretty tight environment for many. And let me bring it around to where I'm going on this. So then we have water, and here's actually the solutions, or one of the proposed solutions that I put out there is in Italy, for example. They've put in, actually this is an old headline because I just read a newer one, with 3 billion euros worth of energy subsidy to assist with the recovery, the economic recovery there because of the high energy prices. And Draghi already stated that they would spend even more money to subsidize households, to make sure that households are not spending more money. And Biden, for example, we talked about oil. I presented the oil. They've actually opened up the strategic oil reserve in the United States, but actually that was coordinated, I believe, with 5 other countries, Japan being one of them, to all release oil around the same time over a given period of time to bring down the price of gasoline. And in Hungary, this has been an amazing experience here, where Prime Minister Orbán put a cap on the petrol and diesel prices. And it's so weird because you can go throughout the entire country on the highway, doesn't matter where, and it's the same price that you pay for your petrol. And it's so weird because you used to, trying to look around to where you should fill up, or this place is the cheapest, and, kind of playing this game. But now it doesn't matter where. And apparently the price was set at 484, and so now with the price of oil going down, it's even cheaper. So it wasn't a long time frame for it. So these are the elements of carbon storms. We have the gas, the fire, the coal being burned. We have the winds, and what I would say, these are the winds of change. So I outlined the windmills, but this is really the wind of change. And I use water here, and I'm not quite sure this is the right element to use, but when we think about this, right, we think about, oh, this is the only thing that we should be concerned about is the end price. But this is not really it, because if we think about clean water, there's a lot of things that go into making clean water, okay? And it's just because we drink it doesn't mean that it actually has a much higher cost to it. The environmental, we have to protect the environment and all the things that have to occur to protect the environment. And I kind of look at energy and the price of energy that we pay at the very end as reflecting that is the very, and I would say that Milena was right, like the consumer should pay, and because it does influence how people use energy. And so if they're consuming too much, they'll cut, and it's too expensive, they'll cut back. The problem is, though, that as I showed there, the governments are stepping in for this, right? And we start to, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time. I'm just going to kind of end this on an academic note. And you don't have to read everything here, but mainly the underlying portion here is that as we shift away from a carbon-based industrial, I would say, society, there's new geopolitics involved. So just like I pointed out, Russia kind of playing this gas game, which is pretty old. We also have China now kind of making these geopolitical decisions as well. Their ownership of rare earth minerals is one of them. I didn't discuss it at length, but their boycott of Australian coal is definitely a geopolitical decision there. And all this does threaten the economies, the price of gas, right? How governments are having to respond, because they can't, of course, we can't let society and even businesses bear the full cost of a 600% increase in the price of gas. So defining a carbon storm, where are we going with this, right? We start to get restricted supply capacities in one sense, where China tried to keep their coal use down. I think they should be commended for that, at least. Like, they really put limits, but the limits were reached, and it showed that they didn't have an alternative energy system built to make up for that coal. And it really had this knock-on effect of creating shortages in the manufacturing area. And so when we add these things in, where we do have actually a regulatory mechanism in place to attempt to reduce carbon emissions, this alters the market conditions, and that over the long term, this effort to reduce greenhouse gases, I think it will result, like in clean water, right? It will result in a good product at the end, but it's going to really take some time. And until then, we're going to have I would say, a variety of storms in this transition. Even those governments that are trying to hang on to oil. One of the reasons oil is high is OPEC Plus is trying to maintain a high price so they get more money. And they don't want to let go of oil. So and the same thing with gas as well. So we have countries playing this game of trying to keep fossil fuels in the mix, and other countries kind of pushing away. And overall, it's going to push them even faster away from fossil fuels. So to answer my brother's question at the very end here, is this a readily solvable problem, or are we headed someplace dire? I would say maybe in the short term, maybe dire is I don't know, if you throw a pandemic in there, then I guess we have dire in there. But I think in the short term, things are going to be expensive. And over the longer term, though, I think the energy transition will just be accelerated. And I think EU policy coming into play demonstrates this. So thank you very much for your attention tonight.
Thank you very much, Mike. In view of the time, I would like to move on to the general Q&A session, for which I have collected questions already. And I would like to introduce our faculty director, live from Vienna, Marcie Kizlovsky, to join us for the Q&A session. Such an honor, Marcie. Thank you very much for joining.
Come on. No, and thank you so much, Mike. As always, so thought-provoking. And I would like to, after a long day at CEU Executive MBA, we usually have a glass of wine, usually towards the roof deck of a respective campus. And I can imagine drinking this wine glass with you and discussing so many aspects. But Thomas is looking at me sternly and saying there must be a Q&A, so we should go there. And but thank you so much. It was amazing.
Thank you.
I hope our attendees online can enjoy a glass of wine at home or at work while they're listening to our Q&A session. So let's get right into it. I mean, Mike just mentioned throwing in a pandemic. We are in a pandemic, and in Prague, you can actually already still see the pandemic going on with, and in Vienna, especially with the current lockdown. So the elephant in the room, Marcie, is what about COVID? What are our measures? What is our approach on the COVID situation?
So as you said in your presentation, you obviously can join online, and we are investing hundreds of thousands of euro to actually make the online option good and better every module. We invested in technology, we fine-tuned technology. It's complex, but we are the entire university is working hard to make it work. However, online education is never going to be the same as on-site attendance, and that's why our main goal is to do everything humanly possible and legal, of course, to actually bring you on campus and to make you enjoy this kind of unpredictable, discursive, two-way experience that maybe you got a little bit of a taste from Mike's presentation. And how we do it? We do it by following science. We were the first university in Vienna that rolled out mass antigen tests more than a year ago. Believe it or not, it was a new product a year ago. It's true. The time flies, but that was a new product. We test everybody every second day at our expense to make sure. We are exploring now. There is exciting development on rapid PCRs, which we are exploring, and hopefully we can maybe be one of the leaders deploying that. We teach in large classes so that people can be in a safe distance from each other. It seems that especially with vaccines, the concentrations of the virus actually matter. We have each class has this kind of filtering equipment. We do everything possible to bring you on campus so that you can enjoy and be safe. I would also say that compared to our competitors, the very schedule of this program is, we didn't know about COVID when we designed it, but it's very kind of, it's as if it was designed for COVID, because the program, as Thomas showed you, really delivers a lot of the content in spring and summer. And we know that in Europe, this disease is becoming seasonal. Yes, so imagine, our participants would go to a every second weekend program that starts somewhere in October and finishes somewhere in March. Basically, it's an online program, yes, but because we have our main module in August, both of those modules so far, even in 2020 when there was no vaccine, were on site, yes, and we actually had only one fully online module, a short 3.5 day winter module in 2021, this last winter, because there was lockdown, yes, but that was, compared to our competitors, it's pretty minor impact, and I think all those factors that I mentioned contribute to this. So that's the philosophy. Yes. Mike wants to ask.
Yeah, I just want to jump in as a normal faculty person, I would say, and say I think we appreciate even more. Absolutely, it's not. I think it's absolutely true. We appreciate even more the in-person learning and interacting with each other. And I know CEU has. We're really hoping in January we'll be meeting in person. I think this is our full-time program, but still, like, meeting people in person now is so special. And I think when we come together in the classroom, I felt it in the summertime as well, like there's just this dynamic and there's this energy in the classroom where maybe before we appreciate it. I definitely appreciated it, but it's so harder. It's much harder to replicate that on the online. Or what's really great is knowing the student at least, and then if we have to be online, then we have to be online. But at least we have this relationship, and I don't think I can express it all the way, but it does help. And I think being in person and actually learning in person nowadays is super important, and you do get more out of it. And not just online. And I have this nice little microphone here, and I'm doing the podcast, and you can see I'm trying to change things up. It's all in an attempt to, like, if we have to be online, then let's do it at a really high level and try to make a connection as much as possible with the technology we have. But at the same time, let's just hope we can be in person, and this is much better.
Thank you very much, Marcie and Mike. I would like to take the next question. Multiple people have asked about what what are the application requirements and what's the application procedure. Let's start with the requirements, because we need to check the requirements first, because before we can talk about the procedure. So we are looking for people with at least 8 years of work experience, of which 3 years need to be with leadership or managerial experience. The university, with a university degree, with an undergraduate degree, the field of study or the professional background as far as industry or profession is concerned do not matter to us. So biologists are welcome to apply as the same as economists or artists or people coming from the NGO field. So that would be a perfect fit. You would need to present in proof of English, which can be done easily with home edition from TOEFL or Duolingo or Cambridge certificate or IELTS. So that shouldn't be a problem for you. Of course, you would need to upload. That brings me to the procedure. Once you start with the application on our website, you would need to create a profile. Everything is done online. You're uploading your documents like a motivation letter and a CV, your university transcripts and university diploma, etc., the references. And then we will check once you have submitted and completed your application, I will check it for completeness and correctness. You will have the opportunity to hand in missing documents or to, clarify on any questions on your application. And you will be invited for an online interview where one of our faculty members, it could be Marcie, it could be Mike, or it could be somebody else from the faculty that I already presented to you previously. They will ask you based on a fixed questionnaire, which is based on 43 questions or criteria. So we're not playing mind games in the interview. We just want to take the opportunities to use those 45 minutes of an interview, use them wisely in order to get to know you, get to know your leadership style, get to know your background, your motivation. It's only a limited time that we have. Once you have completed that stage, we will present you to an admission committee, because we are handpicking our participants for the executive MBA. So assuming that you will pass that phase as well, you can be pretty much be proud of yourself that you have made it so far. And by then you will have received an admission decision. We are pretty confident that assuming that you're applied today or as soon as possible, we are trying our best to present an admission decision before the holidays, before the winter break. So we are delivering a prompt reply on your application, because we know that time is precious. You don't have much time on your hands and you want to know if you're joining the program or not. So we're trying our best to deliver a quick response to that question as well. Marcie, the next question, an academic question is, are there any exams and is there a thesis?
Yes, actually, Mike is going to jump on the second part. I think there are exams, but exams are not during the modules. We don't waste time on you sitting in a room writing an exam. We have exam periods between modules where you have like 10 days and you can take an exam online during that 10-day period at the time of your convenience. You need to start and finish, within a set time. But other than that, you choose when you want to take this exam. Now, I also would say that exams are, those online exams are in a minority of courses, especially early on in the program, because most courses focus on projects that you do in your support teams. We put you in this team for core courses. The idea is to put you out of the comfort zone and make you experience kind of working with people who are completely unlike you. So you can be sure that, if you come from Vienna, there will be no Vienna resident in your support team. If you come from Prague, there will be no Prague resident in your support team. And so that's on exams. we do not have a thesis. We have a very special CEU Executive MBA approach to thesis, which is called the Capstone Project. And Mike happens to be the Capstone director. So Mike, tell a few words about Capstone.
I'm happy to jump in here. And actually, first, let me talk about the interviews. Is 45 minutes, but they're really enjoyable, at least from my side, because we just get to know people and we get some questions, we get to ask you questions, and I always enjoy. It's amazing the people that we have on our EMBA program are just really interesting. So I always look forward to the interviews because it's just really interesting talking to people. And the Capstone Project. The Capstone Project is great because it's not a thesis, that's clear. It's 25 pages written and 10 slides on leadership. So this is the requirement. There's some other ones there, but basically the idea is that it's you doing what you want to do. And we actually provide this infrastructure and structure. So, for example, we have an externship. So if you want to, you can go and work for another company for a couple months. Like if you work for a company now and you're like, I don't know, but then you can say, well, for my EMBA program, I have to go work in another company for a few months. And we have students doing that. And for them, it was a great experience. And then, of course, we have mentorship, so you can be the second component is this leadership. So I was just talking to one of our students just this week, and for this Capstone project, she's mentoring. I don't want to give too much away, but another company. She's not that old, but she's a bit older than the people that she's mentoring in their 20s, and they're doing a startup, and it's exactly in her business space. And it's just like this amazing connection that our students are able, the EMBA students are able to help people in our incubator, the CEU incubator. And it's just really great to see. And I just see the benefits because I'm also in the environmental science and policy department. So I do actually advise students on regular master's thesis and I have PhD students. So we have this, I would say, more traditional academic side, but I just see the huge benefits for our EMBA students and actually for organizations and whoever they're working with by giving them the freedom to go out and basically do whatever they want. It's a bit unstructured, but there's no doubt I would say that the benefits just are amazing. And I'm really excited that when I see more and more of our EMBA students, what their projects are going to be. This is probably, it's actually a great honor to be in charge of this program. I still have former EMBA students that I'm sending students to help them be their mentors. So we have a long history and we have a lot of great graduates in tremendous jobs. And I just get a lot of this alumni network. I just want to say it's really strong and it's a great benefit for our program.
Speaking of benefits, in view of our time, I would like to move on to the last question, which deals with the question, is there financial support? Are there any scholarships available? The clear answer is yes. We offer a variety of financial support. We offer basically 3 streams of financial support. The first one is the Open World Scholarship, which aims at people who have achieved something aligned with our mission to strengthen open societies. So breaking down barriers, breaking down privileges, breaking down hierarchies and dogmas. If you have achieved something in that context, feel free to apply for that scholarship. Just from my experience, I need to say that most people who are applying for that scholarship are coming from the NGO field or the public sector or the human rights activism, but it's not exclusive to those people. So if you happen to be a corporate person who has achieved something aligned with our mission, feel free to apply for it. The second stream is the need-based scholarship, which takes only into consideration your individual income situation and the country you're living in, because of course it's a difference if you're a marketing manager in Ukraine or in Germany. It could be the same position on the same level, but your income would differ enormously. So we take both factors into consideration, and it's non-competitive, which translates to you are not competing against other applicants. So to put it frankly, it could be the easiest one to get. The competitive fellowships, the third stream, are the merit-based, country-specific. They are more difficult to get, I would put it that way, because they are competitive. And we have implemented fellowships in order to bring people into the program who are underrepresented at university, but also in our societies in leadership positions. For example, we have created LGBTIQ fellowships. We have created fellowships for female leaders on the regional and country levels, but also on the international level. We have a fellowship in Czech Republic for people who have achievements in fighting corruption and strengthening transparency. We have a fellowship in Central Europe for Romanian Sinti managers, etc., etc. We have fellowships for people managers with a disability. So I think the best way that in order to get personalized advice on your scholarship decision would be to book a one-on-one consultation with me using that link that I just provided. And I will be happy to provide information and to advise you on the best scholarship in order to optimize your application and to optimize your financial opportunity to actually join Executive MBA. So feel free to book a session with me if your questions have not been answered tonight. In view of the time, I would like to conclude this session. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, David. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Marcie, for joining us tonight. Thank you, everybody here in Prague, for joining us tonight. And thanks to Vienna for joining us tonight, and to the online people. Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.